Welcome to Financial Focus, brought to you by GulfCoast Financial Services founder and CEO, John Kuykendall. John and his team of financial, legal, and tax professionals have provided North Florida savers and investors sound, comprehensive financial guidance for over 25 years, helping you to achieve important life and planning goals. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net.
And welcome into the program. This is Gulf Coast Financial's Financial Focus. Along with us is the CEO, founder of Gulf Coast Financial Services, John Kuykendall, the resource for savers and investors in North Central Florida. John, welcome back in.
Thank you, Peter. It's great to be here. I hope everybody's having a lot of fun out there and staying safe.
Well, we always appreciate the time and the guidance and perspective that you provide here on the program, John. And one of the ways that we want to remain safe and healthy is financially safe and healthy. And that seems to be increasingly difficult. Problematic for us to look out into our financial future and say with confidence, hey, everything's going to be okay. That's the feeling that we all want, right? But Kiplinger recently came out with this list. It's an article, 14 reasons why you may run out of money in retirement. Not very reassuring, John.
No, and that's the last thing that anybody wants to do. All the people that we talk to, their main concern is that sometime during their retirement, they're going to run out of money and they're going to have to go live with their relatives, their children, or they're going to be destitute and having to live on Social Security alone. I think that if you think back, all of us in our families and in our past, we have relatives who have done that, who have done a poor job of planning, a poor job of managing their money during retirement. And then near the end, they're out of money, they're on Medicaid, they're barely getting by. And I know that at the church, we've seen a widow after widow who's had that problem. And it just kind of breaks your heart, Peter. And so what we want to do is try to come up with some ways that people can do a little bit better job. And that's the one thing we're here with is income planning that we talk about every week. Income planning is the way to go to make sure that you have enough income for your retirement.
Well, I think that anyone who is affected by this, going broke in retirement, absolutely a shock to the system and life-changing, life-altering, the way of life at that point in time. You know, that's why I think it's such a high concern, even higher than death itself in survey after survey and study after study. If we're gone, we don't have to worry about it, right? But if our life is dramatically altered while we're still here, we're stuck dealing with the consequences. That can be very painful. Pain, obviously, one of the human emotions that does get response. So maybe, John, through this article from Kiplinger of the 14 reasons why we might go broke in retirement, we can identify these potential pain points early and then plan to avoid them or eliminate them as possibilities for pain points later.
Well, hopefully we can plan for them, Peter. I don't think we're ever going to totally eliminate them from everybody's scenario because a lot of people just don't listen. But, you know, the thing is that Tom Hagnell says that longevity is the multiplier of risk. And that's what's happening to us is we've gone from retirement of 10, 15, at best years. I mean, you know, when we set up Social Security and the Social Security maximum age was 65, the life expectancy of a male was 65. Now that same life expectancy is almost 90. So we've got 30 years of retirement possibly, and it could be that sometimes people are going to be living our retirement longer than they're worked. And so we need to make everything we can. And there were a couple of things as I looked at these 14 that really stuck out to me that we've seen time and time again with examples.
Yeah, well, I imagine, John, that each and every one of these items on the list, at some point in time, you have helped an individual identify and then address. So let's move through the list. And if there are any that are maybe more common than they should be or more problematic than they should be, let's expand on them and explain them a little bit. But the first two on them, I felt like Kiplinger was kind of covering its basis here and going on both extremes. One was getting completely out of the stock market, and then
Right.
2 was having too much in the stock market. So
Yeah, the
balance.
thing is that, yeah, I mean, a little balance here, okay? They covered both bases. The problem is that we always talk about a risk analysis and doing a risk analysis, and everybody has a risk tolerance. My risk tolerance, even at my age, is a lot higher than some of my clients because I understand the market. I've worked in the market. I believe in the market. But they have to have a number that will keep them in the market. So what we want to do is we don't want to have all of our money. We want diversification, not just in asset classes like mid cap, large cap, and real estate. What we want to do is we want to have diversification so that we're totally diversified. But we have to have some money in that stock market to get growth. And that's one of the buckets that we want to use as our growth bucket. Now, how many times have you heard the story about the guy that was in the market dropped 30%, he got out, the market goes up 200%, he's still out. And that's what they mean by not staying in the market. But then there's the other factor of the individual who ends up making 10, 12, 14%, and then they get greedy. And so they want to put everything in it and try to chase the market. And in retirement, as we're preparing for retirement, we can't afford to lose 20, 30% of our money and then have time to grow it back. So what we have to do is there's a balance between being too much and too little. And that's what we have to try to find.
Not something that is readily maybe apparent to the average investor, though. What exactly is my appropriate mix of equities and stocks versus non-equities and stocks? So again, that analysis, going through that process and a very specific evaluation with a financial professional, John, that's going to help somebody arrive at the conclusion. And then the next step, making sure that the portfolio is in alignment with what the results of that tell us we should be.
That's right. And then also rebalancing it as the market goes up. We need to rebalance and get back into the appropriate mix. It's always what I call your sleep number. What's your sleep number? How much risk can we take and still sleep?
Right. Because, John, if somebody had the appropriate mix, and just for an example, let's say it was 50-50 back in 2010, and then the decade transpired between 2010 and 2020 where the market doubled, went up 200%, we're not going to be in alignment anymore. We're going to have the equity side grow more, and now maybe that's 80% of our portfolio. So when there is a downturn, now that is outside of our risk tolerance and we lose more than we're comfortable with. So that rebalancing is an important part of our overall results.
Oh, it's very important, Peter, that we rebalance, because if we don't rebalance, then we can be totally out of mix with what our risk number is and also what we should have in the market. So what we want to do is, asset classes, they move every year. What's number one this year won't be number one next year, and it could be number 14 or 15. So what we want to do is we want to allocate over a broad range, and we want to make sure that we've got the right mix for your risk.
You touched on this next one and echoed by financial industry guru Tom Hegna, author of a couple authoritative works on retirement planning. Don't Worry, Retire Happy, and Paychecks and Playchecks. Maybe we'll cite those in the references for the podcast on the website. Go to GulfCoastFinancial.net if you'd like to see the transcription and the sources cited. And John, I know you've got those books in your office, but Tom Hegna said it. Longevity is the risk multiplier. Kiplinger agrees. The third of 14 reasons why we might go broke is you live too long. We don't want that to be a mistake. Like that seems like it's something that should be a good thing. And they're phrasing it as though it's a mistake and to be avoided.
Well, as we get older, and especially in my age, we really want to live longer. And so living longer is not a problem. The problem is not having planned for that. And so we have to have a plan that puts into place all the components of different aspects of how we're going to get paid. That income plan, over and above, again, we keep talking about, is the way to go, because then we know we got sustainable, predictable income to last me. We've looked at all of our things, and then we rebalance it every year, retweak it every year, and we work on it. But living too long is not a problem. It's only a problem if you run out of money.
Yep.
And I have your phone number, so, you know.
Yep. Well, my dad said that the only person who actually wants to live to age 100 is a 99-year-old.
That's right.
I'm not sure if that's completely universally true. I've actually, met some folks that say, I want to live to be 100, but the thought behind it, I do understand. Now, as we're living longer, actually, John, maybe it doesn't even require the longevity aspect here. Probably the risk is if we live longer, but we could probably accomplish this mistake in the first few years of retirement. Number 4 of 14 is you spend too much. So if we don't have that plan, if we don't have the understanding of the budget and what we can or should not spend, that is inherently increasing the risk of going broke in retirement.
Oh, yeah. And Peter, how many people do you know, in fact, in this report, Kiplinger says that a lot of the people who retired actually spend more money in the few years after they retired than they did when they were working. And so, we're going to be physically able to do things, take trips, go places, hopefully, be able to go to a restaurant and eat a nice meal. And so we're going to want to do those things. But we have to have a plan in place that tells us how much we can do that for. So what we need is we don't want to spend too little. That's as bad as spending too much, because I don't want to leave. My plan is to leave my sons some money, but I don't want to leave them all the money. And so I want to make sure that I have a plan in place that tells me this is my budget. I planned a new car in 2 years. I planned this. I planned my trip. All that stuff's planned out, and it's in my plan so that I know when I can spend it. And, if I make a little more this year, then maybe I can spend a little more, but we have to work the plan. We also have to worry about taxes, because as I spend more, I'm taking it out of my deferred IRA and rollover 401ks. And so that money's taxable. So we have to make sure that I'm not creating a problem for my Social Security, my Medicare, and all the other things that fall into that component as you get older.
When you mentioned the word budget or budgeting, I think people might think, oh, that's limiting, that's restrictive. But if you think about it, if we don't have that budget, we're going to be far more conscious and limit ourselves and maybe not live life to the fullest potential because of the concern that we may run out of money. The budget is what gives us the freedom to spend, not limits our ability to spend.
Well, sure. For years we worked for a company, or we worked for someone, or we worked for ourselves. But we know how much we can pay ourselves and how much we can pay our employees based upon how much income we have coming in. And so we really live on that budget, or your company does, when they're paying you every week. What makes you think you can go into retirement and spend without having someone controlling your spending?
It's a free-for-all, right? Yeah. Doesn't work out that well. But again, boiling all these down, and we've only covered the first several of these 14 reasons you might go broke in retirement from the Kiplinger article. But if you would like to identify if you are potentially at risk of any of these, or try to identify and solve for these issues, address them through the planning process, that is the solution, is having the specific retirement income plan. And John Kuykendall and his team there at GulfCoast Financial Services can help to structure and implement and put that together, and then monitor that on an ongoing basis for you and along with you. Pick up the phone, give them a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018. And again, John, I know through your experience in serving savers and investors across North Central Florida, Gainesville, Lake City, been voted best of the best by the Lake City Reporter in financial services. You spend a great deal of time identifying these very issues for your clients.
Yes, we do, Peter. And we enjoy it. We like to do this. We have a very precise program that we use. We have software that we run behind everything. We'll analyze your taxes. We'll analyze your Social Security. We'll come up with an income plan to show you where we're going to fall short and what we can do to address that in order to give you a better lifestyle. But Peter, the thing that really surprised me about this report, and it really shouldn't, because I've heard this before, is the number 5 was relying on a sole source of income. And 9 out of 10 retirees cited Social Security as the primary source of their income, according to this 2020 Retirement Confidence Survey. That is a lot of people, 9 out of 10 in retirement. And I don't know about, my check's $2,300 a month or something. Not a lot of money to live on.
Yeah. Now the article's point is relying on a single source of income. The 9 out of 10 say it's the primary source. So slight difference there in the verbiage. But regardless, Social Security is not meant to replace all of our income or even support the lifestyle that we were accustomed to. It is meant to provide a subsistence living to keep us slightly above the poverty level. Right, John?
Well, that's right. And you got to remember that, in 13 years, according to the latest survey, we're going to run out of money to fund 100% of everybody's Social Security. So it's 76 cents on the dollar in 13 years. Now, if you're going to take a 24% haircut or 24 cents on every dollar in 13 years, and you're planning to retire, it seems to me like we need to be trying to make that up. Because as we've talked about in this show, taxes are probably the lowest they're ever going to be. We're going to have to raise taxes sooner or later. We have all this trillions of dollars that we're adding to the stimulus, to the package because of the stimulus bills. And right now, our debt is financed at 1.83%. All the trillions of dollars that the United States owes, we're paying that at 1.83%. If interest rates for some reason went up, we would have a tremendous amount of money that we would need in order just to pay the interest on the debt. So we've got to raise taxes. So I can't see them coming up with a way to raise taxes on the few people that are working now for all us retirees. The baby boomers are the largest and now create the largest generation of retirees ever. So somehow we have to be ready for that. And we can't rely on Social Security. We can't rely on cost of living raises for Social Security. And the one thing you can count on is that your Medicare Part B is going to go up and take any increases just about that you're getting on your Social Security check. So we need to have other sources of income. And I think you had a report that showed that even the government says that.
Yeah, absolutely. They have talked about the need for supplementing sources of income. I believe, John, for like the last 20 years, I have heard discussions about this, but the benefits of supplementing Social Security, the necessity to supplement Social Security, because it was never intended to provide for anything and everything that we may need in retirement. And to your point, the taxes, John, they expect that as the baby boomer generation does pass and therefore passes assets on to the next generation, that will be the largest wealth transfer in history. But if taxation has anything to do with it, we could be making that wealth transfer to the government and to the Treasury to service this interest on this debt. So in order to avoid that, it's going to take some careful planning.
Well, too, Peter, you got to remember that they've kind of set that up with the changes we made to the IRAs in January of 2020.
The Secure Act.
The Secure Act. We did away with it goes to the spouse or to the surviving spouse, and you can take it out over your actuarial life. But that passed to that next generation, they have to take the money out over 10 years. And so they're going to be paying taxes much quicker on all that wealth that we've accumulated. And so their tax bill is going to be a lot higher. Because not only is it compounded by the fact they're earning and in a tax bracket, but then we're going to add that 10 years of IRA distribution onto them, and they're going to be even taxed higher. So it's creating a ballooning, or whatever you call it. It's a wave's pushing, and so as that wave gets bigger, it's one of those things that'll cover you if you're not careful and drown you.
Yep. A couple more on this list. You planned on working throughout your lifetime and into your senior years, but for whatever reason, you can't work, or you get sick. Maybe it happens to some people, but John, I just don't believe that could ever happen to me, right?
Oh, no,
and that's why we fail to plan. You plan to fail.
You're like the guy that doesn't buy disability insurance because he's never going to get disabled. That's one of the problems. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to work forever. One thing, the job gets downsized. Two, as we get older, we can't keep up technology wise. Three, you just don't have the physical capacity. As we get older, we all get tireder, and it's harder for us to, focus. I take a little nap at lunch. I like that. That's a good thing, and I'm rejuvenated.
Naps are great.
I can go. Yeah, naps are great, power naps. But you can't plan on that for your retirement, Peter. You can't plan on the fact that you're not going to get sick. We're going to spend, I thought the number was somewhere like 138,000 or something for a male and 160-something thousand for a female during their retirement in medical costs. So if you're taking that out of what you saved, and a lot of people only have a quarter of $250,000. So it's not a lot to save up. I think in this report somewhere I read that people making over 100,000 had saved 250,000 for retirement. Was that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So those making over 100 on average have saved at least 250, or rather not at least, on average 250,000. So they got two and a half years of retirement covered, John.
Yeah, I got the first 2 years covered. I'm not worried. It's gonna, the other thing you got to remember is inflation, because as we live that 30 years, then it's going to cost more for us to buy the goods in retirement that we need to buy. And so we have to have our investments have to be structured to keep up with inflation, minimize taxes the best we can do, and give us the most return monthly and yearly that we can get so that we can live the lifestyle we want.
A few more here. Again, pulling from this recent article from Kiplinger on the 14 reasons you might go broke in retirement, and talking with your financial and retirement planning resource, John Kuykendall from GulfCoast Financial Services, about how to identify these and to address them. I love the graphic for this next one. It's the man with the hammer behind his back. He's hiding it, and the unsuspecting piggy bank is sitting there not knowing, not aware of what is about to happen. You tap into the wrong accounts. John, by the time we retire, we probably have a variety of different types of accounts. We've diversified, we've spread things out. Tapping into the wrong accounts, the order in which we access those dollars does have an impact.
Well, sure, Peter, because as we take money out of our Roth IRAs and out of our regular accounts that we pay taxes every year on, those don't count towards our tax bill in the long run. If you're taking all the money out of your IRA, you're paying taxes on all that money that you take out when you don't need to. I think back to the individual who wanted to take an additional $10,000 out of their IRA to buy plants. And when we ran the numbers, we told them, you can have the $10,000, but if you do it this year, it's going to cost you $4,800 in taxes. So, you might as well take out $14,000 to pay the taxes. So you got to plan those things. You can't do it. I know another one on here was that not considering state taxes.
Right. To your point, that would have been a costly mistake.
Yeah. Florida, doesn't have state taxes, thank goodness. But a lot of retirees want to move to where the kids are. Well, suppose the kids live in a state that has state income tax, high income tax, high sales tax. Don't you think we should take a look before they move and figure out what that's going to do to their lifestyle?
Right. Or bankrolling the kids, another one on this list.
That's a big one. I love that one.
I'm a parent. I get it. I'd do anything for my kid, but at a certain point in time, not becoming dependent upon my kid is the best thing for my kid.
Yeah, but Peter, they never go away. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he has two kids. His son's divorced. His daughter's still married. I said, well, how are the kids doing? He said, oh, they're great. They moved back home. So the husband and the daughter and the son are all living with him while they, quote, build homes somewhere, because they sold their houses and made the money off of it. They never go away. But how many times have I talked to my clients about not funding their kids because we can't take money away from their lifestyle? The kids aren't going to have the money to support them when they need it. And so if they take and ruin their 401ks and their plan now in order to pay 50 or 30,000, whatever they're trying to buy, it just doesn't work. And it's over and over and over again. And sometimes we have to just have a little tough love, but it's hard for parents.
Sure.
Luckily, I haven't had to experience that. I just
you say they never go away. Certainly not at GulfCoast Financial Services. You've got the kids right there.
I got the kids here
and the grandkids.
Yeah. I keep them close.
Absolutely.
But, luckily they pay their own way, though. I got to tell you that. But it is a plan. Just a bomb waiting to happen when I see this over and over and over again. And you've got 30 and 40-year-old kids asking their parents for money, thinking that, well, I'll take my inheritance now. There may not be any inheritance in these days because, like I said, as we live longer, we need more money. So if you're going to do that, at least figure out the plan and figure out how much you can afford to give them before you give them the farm.
Well, a couple more are you are underinsured or you do not have an emergency account. And again, taking these from the Kiplinger article of the 14 reasons you may go broke in retirement. We will link to the article in the notations on the website for the podcast. You can go to gulfcoastfinancial.net and you can find all of the previous editions of Financial Focus from Gulf Coast Financial. But John, again, very astute reasons here. It's not a complete list. It's not comprehensively covering every reason why we have to have concern in retirement. But these are two, again, major ones that we need to definitely consider and address, being underinsured and not having that emergency reserve.
Well, underinsured is a lot of things. I mean, that umbrella policy will cover you liability-wise. And if we need to do something and we have a wreck and somebody sues us and we're covered, certainly you have insurance on your house. And now we can even get life insurance on seniors. And so that's certainly something we should look at, not just for young people, but also for older people also. The final one that we talked about was no emergency fund. And I thought this was really an eye-opener that 25% of all boomers have no cash. They have no cash reserves. Now, what we're planning on doing is, I suppose we've got this huge 401k that we're going to roll over. And then if I need extra money, I'll just pull it out. Well, if I needed a roof, and in my case, the roof's $30,000, then I pull $30,000 out of that. In addition to what I'm living on, what's it going to do to my taxes? We have to build up reserve accounts of at least 6 to 12 months of living expenses to cover those little emergencies. You don't want to put them on a credit card. So we need something put aside to handle that so that we can deal with the taxes.
Yeah, that need does not dissipate in retirement. You still have to have the ability to access some cash and capital without additional costs, penalties, expenses, or a lot of time in between to make transactions. And I know at a certain point at 59 and a half or after, we can view, yes, the retirement accounts as a sort of accessible fund, but that should not be the emergency funds. And all of these items on this list, John, they are serious and we need to address and identify them. Kiplinger was absolutely accurate and spot on here in identifying these as potential risks and attributable reasons why people may go broke in retirement. Old and broke, two things that we don't want to be at the same time. I think Tony Robbins said that, and that's why we've got to do everything within our power to identify these and address them as early as possible. That's what you and your team at Gulf Coast Financial Services offer for savers and investors, planners who are serious about their financial future and security and stability.
Yeah, Peter, we do that every day. We love it. We just love to meet with people and work up their plans. We try to, make it a family thing. We want the wives and the spouses involved, and the kids if they want them to be. But it is something that we need to be proactive about. We need to plan it. We need to do it way ahead of time. And then once we're in retirement, we still have to continue to do it. Because like I said, we may have one good year where we can spend a little more money, but then when we have the bad years, we're not dipping into principle so much in making our plan not work.
Well, let's make sure that we have the plan. Let's make sure to continue to update and monitor the plan. Let's make sure that that plan does address all of these issues or potential risks and dangers on the Kiplinger article and the list of the 14 reasons why we may go broke in retirement. That's what retirement income planning is all about, the ability to have confidence and peace of mind in your lifestyle and ability to maintain it. And John Kuykendall and his team there at GulfCoast Financial Services and sister company, GulfCoast Tax Advantage, that's what they can do in helping you to structure that plan, implement that plan, and on an ongoing basis, monitor and update that plan. Give them a call to get that process started or for that complimentary review. There is no downside for placing the call. There is no cost or obligation. There's never any benefit from procrastination, and there's no need to meet in person to get answers to your questions. John and his team fully capable of doing those virtual reviews. The safety, the convenience factor, John, there being a plus, or the in-person face-to-face meetings, correct?
Yeah, whatever they want. We're more than happy to do it. We've gotten really proficient on the computer Zoom meetings, and we're more than happy to meet face-to-face.
Well, to get that process started, it's just the old-fashioned phone call. 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, or online, GulfCoastFinancial.net. That's the resource to go to for the full library of previous editions of the podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share those messages on specific financial and retirement planning related topics with your friends, neighbors, loved ones, those that you care about and may also need and benefit from that important information. Go to GulfCoastFinancial.net or give the team a call now. John Kuykendall, looking forward to hearing from you, helping in any way, assisting how he can. Give a call, 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018. John, always appreciate your time.
Thank you, Peter. I think these were all great items.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities, Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services, Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities, Inc. or Kovac Advisors, Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.